Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance at Club 20 in Grand Junction, Colorado. We are joined by Dan Thurlow. He is a member of the House of Representatives representing Grand Junction, where we are sitting right now. We are in your district. We thank you for having us here today. Talk to me about Grand Junction, Mesa County. How is this region doing economically? Are we coming out of the recession nicely?
Well, first of all, Brad, thank you for being here,
please.
and thank you for inviting me this morning to do this interview.
Yes.
Grand Junction is a community. We're about 60,000 people in the city and 120 in the
Mesa County
at large. And we're not as prosperous right now as the Front Range of Colorado, but I think we sometimes, downplay ourselves too much. I think there's a lot of good things about Grand Junction. There's a lot of good reasons to live here. The growth isn't quite as fast as it is on the Front Range.
And I want to talk about that because when you look at statewide growth, it is epic. Colorado ranks 5th, at least last year, when compared to all other states in terms of growth, 2 times the U.S. average. But as I understand, a lot of that growth on the Front Range, not as much on the western slope. And so what can you do, what are your colleagues doing to try to spur that growth in this beautiful community?
Yeah. Our economy traditionally has been driven by the minerals, oil and natural gas, coal, drilling, things like that. That's always an up and down rides, but we have a very active, it's called GJEP, it's Grand Junction Economic Partnership, which is our economic development agency. They're very actively recruiting companies. We have a Visitors and Convention Bureau that's very active in advertising our outdoor recreation, our great climate, some of the wine things that are happening out in Palisade and other places in the valley.
I want to ask you about oil and gas because, like you said, oil and gas is up and down, but it's hard to deny that in Colorado, in the United States, in the world, we're starting to look away from oil and gas and towards renewables, whatever that may mean. And so what is Grand Junction, what is Mesa County doing to kind of diversify its economy? Be it in the energy sector or otherwise?
Yeah, well, to speak specifically to the energy sector, I think one of the things that hopefully is on the horizon is having the ability in this country to export natural gas. We can't do that right now, and if we can get that changed so that natural gas can be exported, it'll be a big boon to our economy. The other things away from natural gas, again, there's a very active group trying to set up things to incentivize businesses to come here. As you probably know, there was a bill passed in the legislature this year called Tax-Free Colorado, which sets up some incentives in not just Grand Junction, but at different areas around the state to try to bring startup companies and new businesses to our communities. That takes a little while. There's no magic to it. It takes a little while for those things to work. Incentivizations are important. I think just presenting ourselves as the great community that we are is important, being positive about it.
Another issue that you are dealing with mightily, in addition to economic development in Denver, is transportation. Colorado, like many states, is suffering under the weight of a need to repair roads and bridges, metaphorically speaking. And so there's a big debate about how can Colorado fund its infrastructure needs. In light of Colorado's unique budgetary situation, you have Tabor on the one side, which doesn't allow kind of extra funds to be spent. It can get refunded. You have Amendment 23 on the other side, which requires increases in education budgets. And so really you and your colleagues are looking more specifically at raising money for transportation projects. What's your sense of the discussion about increasing the gas tax? And I ask you because here we are at Club 20, which recently passed a resolution in support of a gas tax increase. It's a bold statement.
Well, it's interesting that you bring it up as kind of a separate issue from economic development because it's really not for us over here on the western slope. Transportation is an economic development issue. Our ability to ship products out of here down I-70 and into Denver without having a bottleneck is very important to us, or the ability of people to come out of Denver and come over and enjoy skiing or come to the wine country and getting rid of that bottleneck in I-70 as it comes from Floyd Hill to the Eisenhower Tunnel is very important. Specifically, my view, the gas tax, it's currently at 22 cents in Colorado, hasn't been raised since 1992. Coincidentally, 1992 was the same year that Tabor was passed.
Right.
I think there's a very good argument to be made to the taxpayers that, this, number one, transportation is a legitimate government function.
Right.
We should be funding it, and I'm not for doing away with Tabor, but we should at least be funding it at the level that the rest of the state and the economy has grown.
Well, consider, if I may, that with inflation, with 1 million more people, with hybrids and electric vehicles, the gas tax is not bringing in the money that it did in 1982.
I believe the number, when you break it down, and of course you forgot population growth.
And population growth,
So
1 million more people.
when you add population growth to the better
Right.
fuel economy, I think the correct number is we're spending $128 each back in 1992 on the gas tax, and I think we're spending about $68 today on the gas tax. So I think there's a very good argument that we could add, and I'm going to throw out a number
Yeah.
of 10 cents a gallon to the gas tax. Everybody would be still paying less on a
Of course.
per dollar basis than they were in 1992. It's
Here's-
good in the sense that the people that drive the most pay the most.
Right.
If you don't drive much, you pay less. So I think it's a fair way to provide that service. So
What about a surcharge, though, on electric vehicles? They'll pay nothing.
well, that's a separate problem. I agree. The gas tax, as we go down the road to electrical vehicles, will become less and less fair. I don't think we're down that road far enough yet that that's a big enough factor to complicate the issue, because once you start talking about a surcharge on electric vehicles, the only way you're going to be able to do it is to charge per mile driven.
Or
Of course,
registration.
Or registration,
Right.
and we already have some registration fees that
Right.
were done in 2009 that address that issue a little bit.
I have to say, I know that you're a member of the Republican Party, and the fact that you're willing to look at the gas tax and potential increase says a lot. And it says a lot about the environment. And I'm wondering, are you working with other Republicans to look at a modest increase in the gas tax? Because if there could be a bipartisan coalition behind this, I mean, that will be powerful when you ask the voters if whether we should move forward on this.
What I'm trying to do, is you ask me about the Republican Party. I'm trying to help position the Republican Party as a party that is here just to solve problems for the people of Colorado. And so we should be looking at the real issues. We should be looking at transportation and figuring out how to make it better. We should be looking at education.
Right.
And then we should be looking at good government with fewer taxes and regulations for the people. And I don't think those are contradictory things. I think, people talk about Tabor all the time. I don't see that Tabor is the problem. Our budget this year, you may not know this, but we actually spent 7% more than we did last year.
Right.
And it's been growing about that much every year since 2009.
But education funding is down.
So the problem isn't that we don't have enough dollars. The problem is we don't have a very good way to prioritize the dollars. We start off the session and we pass a whole bunch of bills that take a little bit of money here and there, and we spend a lot. And then when we get to the end of the session, here we're faced with, and we actually address the budget through the long bill, then we're faced with all these shortages in the things that we think are really important. So I think that's what we have to work on, is not how to get more money from the taxpayers. I think we have to work on how to do a better job of prioritizing and spending that money for the things that really count.
His name is Dan Thurlow. He is a member of the Colorado House of Representatives representing Grand Junction, Colorado, where we are today. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Charter Local Edition.